Hello, romance book lovers. Welcome to Tales from the Heart. I'm Jenna Harte, and each week I post new episodes from my stories of crime and passion. Right now, we're listening to With This Ring, I Thee Kill, Book 3 of the Valentine Mysteries. This week is episode 7, Chapter 7. Now, if you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get With This Ring, I Thee Kill from your favorite ebook retailer, or you can save by buying it direct from me. With This Ring I Thee Kill is the third book in the series. Now, if you missed book 1, Deadly Valentine, you can listen to that by checking on earlier episode postings, or if you'd like to read it, you can get the book for free at my website, jennahart.com. Book 2, Old Flames Never Die, is available in earlier episode postings as well, or available also at your favorite ebook retailer or for less through my shop. Now, Tales from the Heart is posted to podcast platforms and YouTube each week, and these episodes are edited to censor out the more intimate content. If you'd like to have a version that includes the spicier bits, plus get early access, behind-the-scenes information about the stories, bonus content, and more, please join me over at Ream Stories. You can learn more at reamstories.com/Jenna Harte. Now, never miss the mystery or romance by hitting the subscribe button, and remember that all the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Now, snuggle up, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Chapter 7. The rest of the week went by quickly. With Jack working on a new business project, Tess filled her time wedding planning, knowing it was a crutch to avoid thinking about her career. She realized wedding planning wasn't too bad if you were allowed to make your own decisions. She had a tendency to want to make choices she knew would bother her mother, like making good on her threat to have blue crab on butcher paper. Eventually, her more mature self prevailed. Crabs weren't in season on New Year's anyway. By the end of the week, she'd developed a calendar for taking care of tasks, such as sending save-the-date cards and invitations. She also made a list of caterers and florists in Jefferson Tavern, which wasn't too difficult considering the size of the town. On Friday, she took a day off from wedding planning to prepare for the party at Brad's parents' home. She wanted to look extra fabulous. The last time she'd been to their home, Brad's parents were telling her she'd never work in D.C. even as a fry cook if she didn't do her duty and marry Brad. They'd made good on the threat, forcing Tess to leave. It took time and Jack's love, but Tess was back, and she wanted them to see it. But more than that, she wanted to see Cameron. It had been years since she'd spoken to her friend. She knew much of that silence was her own fault for hiding away in her self-imposed exile. Prior to their graduating from law school, she and Cameron were inseparable. They shopped, played, double-dated, partied, and lived like the rich young women they were. What Tess remembered most was how much they laughed. Tess pushed the last curl of hair into place and misted with hairspray. Not bad. She stood back to inventory the total package: black sequined halter dress, just enough makeup to look great but not gaudy, and every hair in place. She stepped into the bedroom to find Jack looking out the window. He turned, and Tess finally knew what it meant to swoon. He was in a tuxedo, looking better than James Bond ever could.
"Hey, gorgeous."
His smile included the sexy dimple. She suddenly had the urge to run her tongue over.
Are you talking to your reflection?
He reached out a hand to her.
"Have you seen yours?"
I have. I think I clean up pretty good.
He placed a kiss on her cheek, careful not to mess up her hair or makeup.
"You clean up great."
When did you get home?
She asked.
"Half hour ago. I used the guest bath to get ready. It seemed like you weren't going to be done for a while."
It takes time to glamour up.
"You're always glamored up to me."
As if to be sure, he took a long, slow inventory of her.
Flattery will get you everything.
"How about a drink on the terrace?"
I offer you everything and you want a drink?
She asked.
"For starters."
The sun was making its final descent in the west, casting a yellow and purple haze off the terrace. A bottle of champagne sat waiting in a bucket of ice.
You've been busy.
Jack uncorked the bottle and poured 2 flutes of champagne.
"All in a day's work."
He passed her a glass.
"To you."
To us?
After they each sipped the golden bubbly, Tess asked,
Are we celebrating something?
"It's more of a do-over. The more I think about your ring, the more I want to get it as far away from us as possible.
Did you learn something new?
No, but if the story Winston told us is true or people think it's true, then you'll always be a target for the next wacko who thinks a ring can bring riches.
Tess nodded. She'd been thinking the same thing.
So what are you going to do with it?
I haven't decided. I've been preoccupied on something else.
What can preoccupy your mind more than black magic?
This.
Jack pulled a black velvet box from his coat pocket. Setting his glass down, he flipped open the lid.
Oh my.
Tess gasped as she looked at the ring. The plump red ruby sat as the centerpiece, surrounded by dazzling diamonds. More diamonds and lacy filigree decorated the white gold band, giving the ring an antique look. Tess wouldn't have believed her blue diamond heart ring could have a rival. She'd been wrong.
I can guarantee no one has owned this ring before.
He pulled it from its resting place.
You thought that about the last one.
I know, that's why I had this one commissioned.
He slipped the ring on her left hand.
You are now wearing the Valentine ruby.
Tess thought she was used to the romantic and generous Jack, but once again, he'd left her speechless.
So tell me again you'll marry me.
I'll marry you.
She looked at him, knowing her eyes were probably a little dazed. He looked pleased, as he should.
Maybe in 300 years, one of our descendants will be giving this ring to the woman he loves,
Jack said. The idea of creating something that would last beyond the two of them was a heady feeling. She couldn't remember ever feeling so much a part of something important or everlasting. It immediately put her life in perspective. Her need to prove something to Brad's parents or to her parents now seemed petty and childish. Tess wanted to say something equally as romantic and poignant, but couldn't find the words. So instead, she kissed him, hoping it would convey all the feelings she felt about him and the life they planned. Butterflies fluttered in Tess's stomach as Jack pulled the car up the drive of Brad's parents' home near Embassy Row in Washington, D.C. She always thought their Victorian home looked haunted, which made sense because Brad's parents were ghouls. Jack squeezed her hand, pulling it up to his lips as they made their way up the walk. It grounded her and reminded her that nothing Brad's parents could say or do could hurt her. Not with Jack by her side.
There you are.
Brad rushed toward them.
I was beginning to think you chickened out.
Not at all.
Jack said.
Bud and Millie are on the other side of the house right now. There is a clear path to the bar and then the garden.
Brad said.
Unless you want to show off?
Is Cameron here yet?
Tess preferred to put off seeing Brad's parents.
Yes, she's hitting on a delicious-looking lawyer from Grum & Fitzen.
Tess took a deep breath and entered the home where 3 years ago she thought her life had ended. This time, it simply felt like a house full of rich people, most of whom had very little substance. She and Jack headed straight to the parlor to see Cameron.
Oh my God, it is you?
Cameron rushed to her.
Except sexier. Whatever you're drinking, Tess, I want some.
Tess hugged her friend. The words she wanted to say caught in her chest. She hadn't realized how much she missed her friend until that moment.
She's drinking this.
Brad motioned to Jack.
Wow.
Cameron took a long head-to-toe perusal of Jack.
Wow.
Stop ogling my man.
How can I possibly stop?
Jack held out his hand.
Jack Valentine, and you must be Cameron.
I am. Right now I wish I was Tess.
They're like twins, right?
Brad said.
They look alike, have that same naughty humor, and are smarter than everyone in this room. I used to call them the Bobbsey twins.
Jack didn't see the resemblance, although they were similar in height and coloring. They even shared their sense of style, as Cameron was wearing a dress very similar to Tess, although to Jack's eyes, Tess filled it better. He listened to the women as they chatted about their lives. He could see Tess felt self-conscious about not pursuing her career and was grateful that Cameron didn't see it as an opportunity for one-upmanship.
I always thought you should open a chocolate store or a lingerie boutique. Do you still avoid white underwear like the plague?
Cameron said.
Of course.
Lucky Jack. Hey, maybe you could open a chocolate lingerie store?
Jack laughed, but wondered if maybe Cameron wasn't onto something. Not a chocolate lingerie store, but something away from law that Tess enjoyed. Like chocolate. The women talked a little more while he and Brad enjoyed the banter. Jack enjoyed seeing Tess like this. This was the Tess he'd first met and fell in love with before she felt the need to build walls. Most of the walls were down now, but on occasion, he could see her struggle with wanting to protect herself.
Oh, God.
Cameron said as she opened her purse and took out her buzzing cell phone.
A woman can't even have one evening off. I need to take this and then you and I are going to talk. I want the nitty-gritty details about your Valentine.
Isn't she great?
Tess asked after Cameron sauntered off to a private place to take her call. So how nitty-gritty are you going to get when you talk about me? Tess gave him a coy smile.
Enough to titillate.
That's a lot to choose from.
Don't I know it?
Do I need to get you a room?
Brad rolled his eyes. Jack tugged on the collar of his shirt. It is getting hot in here. I need a drink. Do you want one?
Yes.
Jack made his way through the crowd. Most people knew him by name or sight, but none made his list of acquaintances, much less friend. In the past, he'd attended the Chancellor's parties because Brad needed the moral support, and it was a good place to network. Most of the time, though, he was bored. Tonight was different, but that wasn't because of the Chancellors. It was because of his beguiling and enchanting Tess. It took some time, but he reached the bar and ordered drinks. His was served first, so he took a sip as he waited for Tess's. Before he could put the drink down, a piercing scream echoed through the room. Instinctively, he turned to where he'd just left Tess, but she wasn't there. He dropped the glass and ran towards the sound of the commotion. He bumped and pushed his way into the foyer. Tess! His eyes searched the room, but she wasn't there.
There he goes.
Someone yelled. Jack looked up to see a man in a dark suit pushing his way out the door. The crowd was thick and loud with noise.
Is she all right?
Call the police!
What did he want?
Panic ripped through Jack. An intruder wanting something could only mean one thing. Tess! He forced his way, pushing people aside. One man tried to stop him, but when he looked into Jack's eyes, he seemed to think better of it. As Jack reached the bottom of the stairs, the crowd formed a circle. He broke through, praying that the object holding their attention wasn't Tess. Tess! He called again, finally breaking through. No! Jack dropped to his knees next to Tess.
Is she dead?
Someone asked.
That man pushed her down the stairs. Did you see it?
She should have just given him what he wanted.
But she couldn't have it, because what he wanted was locked in a safe at the office.
The police are on their way.
Someone else called.
Don't move her. She may have hurt her neck.
But he had to touch her. He reached for her, dreading what he'd find. He was sure he wouldn't survive losing Tess. He brushed her hair out of her face. There were bruises and swelling on her face, making his heart sink deeper. Tess!
Oh, God, oh no.
A woman said as she broke through the circle and joined him on the floor. He shook his head to clear it because she sounded familiar.
Jack, oh no, is she...
Jack turned his head and looked straight into the whiskey-colored eyes of Tess. Jack sat in the hospital waiting room while Tess paced. Although he didn't like that Cameron was the victim, he was relieved that it wasn't Tess holding on to life as doctors worked on her. The panic and despair that had gripped him when he thought Tess was the one lying lifeless at the bottom of the stairs was unbearable. He had enough loss to last a lifetime. Tess probably thought he was a maniac, the way he'd grabbed and held her. He wanted to carry her someplace safe to live out the rest of their days. If Tess had noticed the desperation in him, she didn't acknowledge it. Instead, she broke from his hold to attend to Cameron. He'd been surprised that Tess insisted that they go immediately to the hospital instead of waiting to give police a statement. Tess was usually by the book when it came to legal issues. Worry over her friend outweighed her feelings of duty, so they rushed over to the hospital as soon as Cameron was in the ambulance.
What's taking so long?
Tess asked. Jack shook his head. I don't know, but wearing a hole in the floor won't help. Why don't you come sit? He wanted to hold her again, but she was filled with nervous energy. Ignoring him, she resumed her pacing.
Ms. Madison.
A man approached Tess. Protective instincts took over, and Jack was immediately by her side.
You must be Mr. Valentine.
The man said.
Who wants to know?
The events of the last few days made Jack suspicious of everyone.
I'm Detective Ragland with the DC Police.
The detective held up a badge. Jack didn't know how to tell a real one from a fake one, but he scrutinized it anyway.
I understand you were at the Chancellor's home when Ms. Tamblyn had her accident.
Witnesses say she was pushed.
Tess said, prickling at the detective's insinuation that Cameron's trip down the stairs was just an accident.
Yes, ma'am, what did you witness?
He asked, unfazed by Tess's tone.
I didn't witness anything. She'd already fallen down the stairs when I saw her.
Tess answered.
How well do you know Ms. Tamblyn?
We are, or were, very close.
Were? Did you have a falling out?
Detective Ragland pulled out his notebook and pen.
No, I had a crisis of sorts and left my old life. Old friends behind. She went to Europe to work and we lost touch. But the only reason I was at the Chancellor's tonight was to see her, to reconnect with her. She's like a sister to me.
How about you?
The detective turned his attention to Jack.
Tonight is the first time I met her.
How was her demeanor?
She was just like I remember her. Vivacious. Funny. Not a care in the world.
Tess answered.
She wasn't worried about anything?
No.
Can you walk me through your movements tonight? What you did see or notice?
We were all talking. Cameron, me, Jack, and Brad.
Brad Chancellor, the host's son?
Detective Ragland asked.
Yes, he's a good friend of Cameron, too. Cameron's phone rang and she said she needed to take the call. She left the room to go someplace quiet.
Do you know who was on the phone?
Tess shook her head.
No, it may have been work-related. She said something about never getting a night off.
What does she do?
She's an art broker in Europe.
What happened after she took the call?
I went to get drinks,
Jack said.
I heard a scream and then commotion. I went to the foyer and saw Cameron on the floor. Jack wasn't sure if this was the time to admit he'd feared it was Tess.
You didn't see the fall?
No.
Jack shook his head.
Did you hear anything before the fall?
No.
How about you?
Detective Ragland asked Tess.
I was waiting with Brad. We decided to get some air on the terrace. We heard a scream, so we came in to find out what happened.
Did you notice anyone suspicious at the party? Anyone watching Ms. Tamblyn?
No.
Both Jack and Tess said. Detective Ragland finished writing in his notebook, then slipped it into his coat pocket.
I guess that's it for now. If you happen to think of anything...
There is one thing,
Jack said.
It's possible that Cameron wasn't the intended target.
Jack felt Tess's questioning eyes on him.
When I got to the foyer, several people were wondering why she didn't give him what he wanted.
Oh, no.
Tess looked up at him with wide, horrified eyes.
They thought she was me?
Why would someone be after you, Ms. Madison?
Detective Ragland asked. Jack saw fear and guilt in Tess's expression, the same two emotions he was grappling with. He slid his hand up her back and gave her shoulder a light squeeze for support.
We have a ring that some people are willing to kill to get.
So this man tonight wanted a ring?
Detective Ragland asked.
I don't know. No one I overheard said that specifically,
Jack said.
What's so special about this ring?
Detective Ragland asked.
We're not sure, except that it's old and possibly commissioned by Louis XIV of France.
Tess said. Detective Ragland pulled out his notebook, jotted a few lines, and then studied Tess and Jack.
You think this guy was after the ring?
I think it's possible. Tess and Cameron have a similar build and wore similar dresses. Someone might have confused them.
Did you report the other attempts to get the ring to the police?
Yes, the two men that tried to take the ring from us have been arrested,
Jack said.
So there's a third guy?
Jack shrugged. He decided to get rid of the ring because he didn't want people to continue to come after them. But a part of him had believed that with Tim and Cal in jail, the immediate threat was gone. Now he realized he could be wrong.
Do you have the name of the detectives involved in that case?
Detective Daniel Showalter made the first arrest in Jefferson Tavern.
Tess said.
Detective Kipland in Arlington County,
Jack added. Detective Ragland finished writing in his notebook.
I don't know if your case and this one are related, but I'll call Jefferson Tavern and Arlington just in case. Hopefully Ms. Tamblyn will be able to shed some light on this as well.
You'll keep us posted?
Jack asked, reaching into his pocket for a business card. He handed it to Detective Ragland. We'd like to know either way. Detective Ragland took the card, but remained uncommitted about how much he'd share with them.
I don't think anyone will confuse us now.
Cameron said from the confine of her hospital bed. Tess winced at her friend's words, feeling sure that damn ring was the cause of Cameron's tumble down the stairs. The police must have mentioned Jack's theory that the assailant's target was the ring. Otherwise, why would Cameron talk about confusing the two of them?
I'm so sorry, Cam. If I'd known...
Known what? All I meant was that now I look like someone who just fell down a flight of stairs, and you look like a woman in love. I guess Jack Valentine has something to do with that.
Tess's lips twitched upward.
Yes.
So, why all the tears? I'm fine.
She was fine, Tess told herself, although she looked like she had lost 3 rounds with a prizefighter.
I'm glad you're fine.
Tess reached out and squeezed Cameron's hand.
Yeah, well, all this is great now. How come you didn't care the last 3 years?
Cam, it's a long story that doesn't do nearly enough to explain my checking out of everyone's life.
Then skip it. I just want to hear the good stuff. Like your Valentine. I want all the details. And I mean all.
I'll tell you what's acceptable for daytime as soon as you tell me what happened at the party.
Cameron pouted and then winced.
My face hurts. Stupid idiot.
Who? You or the man that pushed you down the stairs?
Both. I should have... I don't know.
What did he want?
Tess asked, dreading the answer but needing to know anyway.
Who the hell knows? He was robbing me. Brad's parents sure have let themselves go if they're letting thieves and murderers into their parties.
Did he ask for something specific?
Tess asked.
Why? What are you, an armchair detective now?
I wasn't kidding when I apologized, Cam. I think he confused you with me. He wanted something from me.
Why? What do you have?
Tess thought Cameron didn't buy her story, but it was hard to tell because her facial expressions were masked by the bruising and the swelling.
Jack gave me an engagement ring, and ever since, people have been trying to take it. But the 2 men who came after us were both arrested. I never dreamed we'd be putting people in danger by...
Wait a minute. Someone attacked you?
Tess nodded.
They came into our home with guns. One of them attacked Jack right on the street in Arlington.
Tess!
Cameron shrank into her pillows. Tess wondered if she was sharing too much too soon. She squeezed her friend's hand, watching the ruby and diamonds sparkle on her new ring as she did. Tess realized that if the man had gotten the right woman, she'd be the one lying in Cameron's hospital bed because she wouldn't have been able to give him the ring. She didn't like that thought, but hated that her friend was in her place.
I didn't think we were in any immediate danger or I would have never gone to that party.
Where is the ring?
Cameron asked, looking at Tess's hand.
This isn't it. It's in a safe.
It must be valuable.
Cameron frowned.
It must be more than that. I mean, who goes after people for one specific ring?
Tess shrugged.
We have some possibilities, but nothing for sure.
Like what?
I don't want to go over all this. Not while you're feeling bad.
I feel broken.
Cameron quipped.
I need the distraction. And maybe I can help. If it has historical significance, I might know something. If it's a secret decoder ring, then I won't be so much help.
Tess laughed.
One man thinks that it was commissioned by Louis XIV for a mistress. It's a brilliant blue diamond.
Really?
Cameron's eyes lit up.
Like the French blue? I'm not sure that's kill-worthy, but impressive nonetheless.
Tess gave her a sheepish smile.
The man said that some people think the ring has magic powers to bring wealth, after first bringing disaster.
Tess could tell Cameron was trying to stifle the laugh, but she failed.
Oh God, that hurts. Don't make me laugh.
Sounds ridiculous, I know.
On the other hand, there are many artifacts that ancient people thought held magic or allowed them to access the paranormal.
But today, most people know that isn't true.
Tess said.
Most people. But there are a lot of kooks in the world.
Tess nodded in agreement.
So are the police involved?
Cameron asked.
I mean, if people are coming after you, shouldn't you be in witness protection or something?
We're staying at Jack's place in Roslyn for now. It has security. And yes, the police are involved.
Tell that big hunk of a man of yours to keep you safe.
I don't think I have to tell him.
No, you don't. There are women all over the world who dream of having a man look at them the way he looks at you.
Tess laughed.
I did all right, didn't I?
Did all right? You were always one for understatement.
If you ask me, I'm the one that did all right.
Jack's voice sounded behind her. She turned to him standing in the doorway and smiled.
Okay, so I think I just fell into the pages of a romance novel,
Cameron said.
My life is pretty mushy.
Tess agreed.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Tales from the Heart. I hope that you enjoyed it, and you will be back to find out what happens next. Are Jack and Tess still in danger? Now remember, you can listen to full uncensored episodes over at reamstories.com/Jenna Harte. Just click the follow button and then select With This Ring I Thee Kill audio for all the audio episodes. If you'd like to read along or get ahead in the story, you can get With This Ring I Thee Kill from your favorite ebook retailer, or you can save more by buying direct from me. All the details and links you might need are just a click away in the description. Make sure you don't miss the next episode. Hit the subscribe button so you'll know when it's posted. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, this is Jenna Harte wishing you peace, love, and happily ever after.